Life as a parent is nonstop. I'm so focused on keeping my family healthy that I barely have time to take care of myself. If this sounds like you, then you need to give Symbiotica a try. Symbiotica is a health and wellness company that empowers individuals to take ownership of their health with high-quality formulas and supplements crafted to boost energy, immunity, gut health, and more. Symbiotica supplements are made with clean, natural ingredients, and they don't contain any toxins or artificial ingredients. Because they were designed for us, busy parents. They're quick and easy to take. Just a daily dose for your energy, immune system, and overall well-being. It's made staying consistent so much easier. And the best part? Symbiotica is having their holiday sale, so now's the perfect time to put your health in the driver's seat. Head to Symbiotica.com for 20% off with code GIFT20. That's CYMBIOTIKA.com with code GIFT20 for 20% off. Your health transformation journey starts now. Symbiotica Natural and Organic Supplements.
You've discovered your link to GoPowercat.com's Tannahill and Spiller Powercat Podcast. Here are your hosts, former K-State tight end Travis Tannahill and former Wildcat safety Monte Spiller.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Tannahill and Spiller Podcast. I am Travis Tannahill. Got Monte Spiller on the other line. Monte, how is your week going?
Hey, man, it's been a good week. Weather's been pretty good considering the second week in November in Kansas, so no complaints, man. How about you?
Oh, can't complain either. No. Opening day of pheasant seasons this weekend, so that's always good. Cats are off, which is timely. I don't have to choose between pheasant hunting and watching my cats. So yeah.
So you gonna stick around here, or you heading out west to go hunt?
Nah, we'll stick around. We'll head down to our family farm, which is about an hour southwest of Manhattan. So central Kansas, where we'll be hanging out. We're not going anywhere. We're not going out to western Kansas too far. But yeah, no high school football for you. The season's over, and no cats coming up. What are we gonna do with our day?
That's a good question, man. Yard work, sleep, relax.
I feel you. Get prepared for a big Iowa State game. That's what the team better be doing. But we'll be making our wives happy and getting caught up on the honeydew list. So, recap: Oklahoma State. Where'd you watch the game? What are your overall thoughts of it?
Watch the game at home. Going into the game, highly concerned about Okie State and their offense and their defense for that matter as well. And their offense having the potential to put up big numbers. But, overall, it's a game we should have won. I think you probably would agree. We had our opportunities. A fumble here, a missed tackle there, and it's a different ball game, And I feel like if you look at the game and outside of the last 4 or 5 minutes, we dominate. Defensive-wise, Oklahoma State really didn't have an answer for our defense, and our D-line with a 4-man rush did a great job, and they gave Oklahoma State problems the whole game. It's one of those things where they put pressure on the quarterback early. Chuba Hubbard had nowhere near the game he had last year against us, and they ended up taking him out of the game. I'm not sure if it was because of injury or because they were sharing minutes with the other back, but defense came ready to play.
Yeah, our defense played exceptionally well. That was one of the more complete games they'd played. It's amazing what having AJ Parker back does for a unit. Defense is so funny. It's I guess it's the same as offense. You take a quarterback out of an offense, and things don't go very well. But yeah, you take one player out in AJ Parker, and it's like the whole defense fell apart. And I remember, my senior year, we took Ty Zimmerman out against Baylor, and the whole defense fell apart. So it is. It's amazing how one player. Especially like quarterback makes total sense, but on defense, you don't quite think of it to be that important for one player. I feel like you can maybe plug a guy in, covering up, help him out, but it's having AJ Parker back was nice and a nice surprise, and looked like he played pretty well and is pretty healthy moving forward. But yeah, you mentioned Chuba Hubbard. He just hasn't had that good of a year. Like he's fine. Like he's not like horrible, but I don't know what has been the drop off there. I was more impressed with, LD Brown, Oklahoma State's other back. Holy cows, that is a man, mammoth of a man. I would not want to tackle that human being. What were your thoughts on him and or really just any thoughts on Oklahoma State's, anytime you can have two good running backs, that's always great. I guess I'm looking here at Chuba. Chuba only got 6 carries. So it's almost like Oklahoma State's, likes LD Brown better, which I can't blame them. He looked very good.
Yeah, no, that LD, he was, like you said, he was big and fast, and the guy was quick on his feet. He wasn't just one of those running backs that had either he's going to run you over or he's going to outrun you. He can make you miss an open space as well, or he can run you over if he wanted to. He is definitely a complete back. And like you said, Oklahoma State, if they're smart, and I get that they want to feel like they're committed to Chuba Hubbard, and he's a great back, but this kid, that Brown kid, if you ask me, he's starting the game, and I'm bringing Hubbard off the bench next game based on how they performed this past week. I'm not sure how Coach Gundy operates during the week. If you have a better practice, you start this week or vice versa. But that Brown kid needs to be on the field, and he is a difference maker. Our defense found out, and I think the rest of the Big 12, if they don't know now, they better listen real quick and check the kid out. It'd be interesting to see how he does against Oklahoma when they play Oklahoma. But no, good-looking athlete. I was impressed with him. He definitely passed the eye test. He's one of those guys where the old joke, let him get off the bus first before anybody else. And he's a good-looking kid, man. I was very impressed with him.
Yeah, I'm looking at only 5'9". I would not have. I would have thought he was much bigger than 5'9", but he was pretty thick, and he ran hard, and he was hard to take down, and overall a very just a good running back. And it's always nice to have two, but yeah, if I'm with you, I know Chuba Hubbard kind of carried him last year, but shoot, go with the hot hand. Do who's helping you out this year. So offensively, obviously the big question, the big controversy, not controversy, that's not the right word, but the big talking point after the game was obviously Will Howard's performance, lack thereof, giant mistakes that, there's 70, 80 plays in a ball game. One of them doesn't make or break the game, but he made some very big, glaring mistakes that were costly. What are your thoughts on Will? How did he play overall? How can he, sharpen things up for those giant mistakes we're mentioning here?
It's the little things, and I'm pretty sure the coaches have made adjustments and will do a good job of coaching them up. But, me as a player, a defensive guy, from watching the game, and I said it to myself, the first run he had, I said to myself, he needs to cover the ball up. Because a couple of times he ran through traffic and he never covered the ball with two hands. He kept it in one hand, which is fine if you're hitting the sidelines. But several times, even in his big run, but right before contact, he didn't cover the ball up, And late in the game, that was costly when the ball was stripped and they returned it for a touchdown. And I said to myself, I said, man, maybe somebody else is seeing what I'm seeing, and they're in this ear and say, hey, cover the dang ball up. And it didn't happen. And late in the game, and if you go back and watch the game, you'll see several of his runs, two guys are hitting him simultaneously, and he never covered the ball up with two hands. He left it in one. And so I'm thinking, come on, you got to get you a freshman, but that's football knowledge and understanding. You play at the Power 5 conference, and guys can hit, and guys make plays. So that's one other thing. I don't know if it's just him just not thinking about it or he felt comfortable with it. But then also with the late throws, especially the one at the end of the game when we had a chance to drive the field and possibly win, I like the fact that the coaching staff had confidence to throw him first down. But, you can't make those mistakes. The receiver appeared to be open, and he just overthrew the guy, And that just comes with practice, repetition, understanding, getting your feet set. And you've been an offensive guy. You understand that. Being a quarterback, getting a good base and letting the ball fly. And he looked off balance, and the ball flew high, and the guy got an interception, which ultimately ended the game. But, what else do we have to go with? Do you change quarterbacks at this point in the season? Not at all. You stay with what you've been going with, because at the same time, I hate to say he cost us the game, but he put us in situations where we could have won and we didn't. But on the flip side, there were games where he played well and kept drives going and allowed us to win also. So you got to look at both sides. You take the good with the bad. And after all that said, we still got a chance to win out and make it to the championship game for the conference.
Yeah, no, all those are good points. And, yeah, that ball security thing's it's – I feel like the more you carry the ball, the more you kind of forget about ball security. He carried the ball, 14 times that game. And so the more comfortable you get, hey, I'm out in space, you just kind of forget to cover it up. Because, the flip side of that is, Sammy Wheeler's reception, I think it was like 55, 58 yards, something like that down the middle of the tight end, Sammy Wheeler. You saw him looking back, covering the ball up with both hands. I mean, because, those tight ends, they're not used to catching, they're not carrying the ball 14 times a game. They're only touching it 2, 3, maybe 4 times a game. So they, it's almost like, I remember being that way. It's like, man, I'm only going to get 1 or 2 catches this game. I better not fumble. And so it's, you'd almost have that, the more you carry the ball, the more comfortable you get, the more you just kind of forget about ball security. And I remember that, even go back to high school when I was a quarterback, and I fumbled once a game just because I ran the ball 30 times a game. So you just kind of forget about it, and you're in your zone, and but you can't forget about it. I mean, it's, you got to, honestly, you need to not be thinking about it. It needs to be second nature. You need to practice it so much in practice and so much, repetition of covering that ball up and keeping that thing high and tight, that because, you're not thinking about it when you're out there running on the field. You're just thinking about, avoiding dudes trying to take your head off. So that'll come with time. I think obviously he probably didn't need to have the strictest ball security when he played high school ball. But now that you're at the Big 12, I mean, yeah, those guys are taught to, be punching that ball out. And this, caveat to that is, if you're known as a fumbler, if you're known as someone who's got weak ball security, they'll see that on film and they'll start going after you even more. So he needs to clean that up quicker, sooner rather than later. That way he doesn't kind of get that reputation, because, they start punching that ball out. They start, instead of trying to tackle you, they start going for the strips. I mean, that's not a good place to be as a quarterback, because then every single time you better make sure you got 2 hands on that ball, because they're coming after that ball instead of your legs at that point.
Absolutely. So, no, and like I said, he's young, and I'm not making excuses for him. And he's how many games in now as a starter. It's one of those things where, you kind of take that label of a freshman off of the guy, because you've been through the fires. You had some positive and some negatives. And basically, we're putting the game in your hands to be our leader, and you got to run with it. And I hope that he keeps his confidence and the team continues to rally around him. I mean, one thing I noticed at the end of the game when he did fumble that ball, through the interception late and fumble, a lot of guys went up to him, patted him on the back and kind of gave him words of encouragement from the coaching staff and players, which I appreciated that, and nobody pointed fingers, you know what I mean? And that's one thing I hope they continue to do and build that young man up, because he has a positive future ahead of him no matter what. So hopefully that follows up this week and then next week before they play Iowa State.
Makes sense. Hopping over to the receiving core, Jax Deneen, Kansas State's leading receiver from last Saturday. 4 receptions, 35 yards, 8.8 average. I would have loved to see a money line on that. I think money line is the right term. I'm not a gambler, so if you're a gambler, I might have just botched whatever the odds are supposed to be for a Jax Deneen to be the leading receiver for Kansas State. What's going on with that receiving core? How in the world is Jax Deneen our leading receiver?
Well, here's the thing about it. Give the coaching staff credit for one, because they understand right now our skill guys, the receivers aren't doing squat. They are not consistent. They are not making big plays. When they get opportunity, it's just not happening. Like you said, if you look at it, the tight ends and the running backs are doing the best, and they are keeping that to a point where they have to keep everything consistent. But the coaching staff did a really good job of looking at other options as far as the passing game. Because I tell you what, going into the game, Jax was one of the last persons I would have thought that would have been the leading receiver, let alone get a pass call, but the leading receiver for that matter.
Yeah.
So, but I like the fact that our coaching staff is smart enough to say, hey, you know what, we're struggling. This is what we got to do.
Yeah, with, Sammy Wheeler went down with I think they said a broken collarbone is his diagnosis. He's out for the remainder of the season. Deuce Vaughn's been relatively quiet the last 2 or 3 games. I think defenses are taking away Deuce Vaughn and making you beat them somewhere else. and no one really has stepped up. From my eyes, if you had to pick one person, Deuce Vaughn's off the board. Briley Moore's questionable this week. Let's say he's off the board. I think he's the obvious answer if Briley Moore can come back. Sammy Wheeler's hurt. Who is, who's the guy that's got to step up? Is it, is it Harry Trotter? Is it Phillip Brooks? Malik Knowles? Who, Seth Porter got a carry last week. Who is, the next man up? Who's going to have to? Someone has to do, because we need some more offensive production. So who do you see stepping up next week when we play Iowa State?
That's the tough one, man, because Iowa State runs that 3-3 defense, and so it kind of puts you in a situation where you're going against speed. And so my thing is, do we want to slow the game down? Probably, because their defense is built on speed, and they want to contain the edge. And so, like you said, Deuce, they're probably going to be keen on him, but we need a bigger, powerful back to run the ball. I'll say go with the heavy package. You bring in Deneen, you bring in Barta, and you run the ball as much as possible. And I'm not going to say it's going to be a receiver or a skilled guy per se, but I say pound the rock and bring in a heavy package and milk the clock and be more physical, because I think our D-line will do great against our O-line and put us in situations where we can. But as far as offensive-wise, we need to bring in a heavy package and pound the rock. That's what I would do personally, but, it's too soon to say.
Yep, nope, absolutely, and K-State offensive staff has two whole weeks to prepare and draw up a good game plan. But overall statistics, I just wanted to point out. So total yards, K-State won that battle, 370 to 256. Passing yards, believe it or not, K-State won that battle, 143. Oklahoma State had 108. Rushing yards, K-State 227 to 148. Yards per play, 5.6 to 4.1. First downs, K-State won. Third down efficiency, K-State wasn't great, but they were actually better than Oklahoma State. Fourth down was a draw, 0-0. We had one less punt than Oklahoma State. We had 15 less yards of penalties. Kansas State won every single major statistical stat that you can have in a ball game, other than turnover battle. They lost one fumble, which was returned for 6 points going the other direction, and Will Howard threw that interception late. So I felt horrible for Will Howard. Because it's like, man, K-State, they played pretty well. You take away those two turnovers, I think Kansas State wins that game, and you can solely put that on. Honestly, you can put 100% of both those turnovers on Will Howard. I know not all the time that's the case. A lot of times a receiver is tipping it, or D-line tips it, and it is what it is. But both those were 100% his fault. And then Kansas State won every other single category. So how do you come back from that if you're Will Howard? Or what do you look for? Just a game that you basically won. You just had two bad plays. And that, kind of cost you the game. I was surprised when I saw the stat line. I thought Oklahoma State would maybe be a slight edge in all those categories, and K-State found a way to stay in the game. But when you look at the statistics, no, K-State dominated that ball game. They just had two big turnovers.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news. You asked how do you come back from it. He has two things that's positive for him. They got a bye week, so they got 2 weeks to prepare for Iowa State. All right, and you know that the team is battling with some COVID issues again. It sounds like it's a bunch of young players, which is not saying that's good news, but considering it could be worse. We're thankful that we're able to play the game. But on the flip side, we got a bye week. And also, like I said before, you win this game, you are still in the running for the Big 12 championship, and that's something to play for. And if you think about where K-State started and where they're at now, and they are still in a great position to make it to their championship game, that's a lot of motivation. And if you're on that, if I'm a player on today's team, I'm waking up in the morning thinking, hey, we still can make it, and why not start with the Iowa State game? And then you got Baylor and Texas, obviously, but they're set up for success. They just got to find a way. And every game we've been in this year, with the exception of West Virginia, that just went downhill real quick. But outside of that, we've been in every game this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, I think these next 3 games, Baylor's playing a little bit better. So I could see these last 3 games,
Yeah.
Honestly, the last 4 games of the season kind of worried me. They were all, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Iowa State, and Texas. I mean, I felt like that our season was I think it was factual that the last 4 games of our season, our schedule was very backloaded. But yeah, there's no one. The Big 12 just seems to be very even this year. There's no one that is a piece of cake other than, KU. But other than that, everyone's very, very similar. And like you said, I mean, what's that now? 2 losses in the Big 12? I mean, if you told me 4-2 in the Big 12 heading into week 8, I'd be like, I'll take it. Like that this is a pretty good season so far. So, and that's what we've heard a lot of the players and coaches kind of say overall is they're just like, hey guys, we're playing football. Like we didn't know in July or August if they were even going to let us attempt to have a season. So I think there is a lot of graciousness and a lot of thankfulness going on. But at the end of the day, we heard Coach Kleiman say, there are no moral victories. They got to find a way to win these close ball games, which is kind of what you just mentioned.
Right. So no, and I think if you look at our team as a whole, we lose our starting quarterback, who's been a leader for us for the last 2-3 years, and we have a true freshman step in. We got a true freshman running back. We have pretty much a brand new O-line as far as starts together. If you think about that, and I know we talked about that at the beginning of the year. These guys have gelled fairly well, fairly quickly, considering what we had going in. We got a couple of guys' departure. We had a couple of receivers that we thought were going to be good that hadn't showed up yet. The secondary has been beat up. We've had guys drop here and there, and but we still continue to play good football, and we have guys step up. So I'm excited about the Iowa State game. Around these parts, we call it Farmageddon. A lot of people nationwide don't know that, but between Iowa State and K-State, we call it Farmageddon, and we take pride in that, and it's fun. And I appreciate both programs and both communities. So I'm excited about the opportunity. And I know they're gunning for us because how many has it been in a row that we beat them?
10, 11? A lot.
Like 10, 11 in a row?
Yeah, I never lost to them. We've definitely, for whatever reason, we found, and I would say, you probably look at the records and over the last decade, I think K-State's got the edge, but not by much. And so, you would think that it would maybe be like a 60 to 70% wins for K-State and 30% for Iowa State. But no, it's been domination by Kansas State, which has been a lot of fun. Which we could transition over to that Iowa State, which Farmageddon, like you said. We talked last week about Oklahoma State, how similar it was to a Kansas State. I feel like Iowa State's another program like that. I mean, they're kind of we got OU, Kansas, Iowa. Those are kind of your, the non-state schools, and they're kind of a little similar. And then you got the ACT schools, which is Stillwater and Manhattan and Ames. So I do think the fan bases play on that, and it is fun. It's fun. They're always a physical program. They're fun to go against. I always love playing Iowa State. How'd you feel about them overall playing against them?
Oh yeah, I would like to say it was one of those games, and it was guaranteed that no matter if it was, I don't know why they schedule us so late in the year, but they always do. It's guaranteed to be cold, no matter where you were playing, either in Manhattan or up in Ames. It was a cold game, but it's one of those things where both teams were somewhat blue-collar teams. The coaches were no-nonsense coaches. They recruited guys that were program guys that was going to work hard and buy into what they were selling. And like I said, the fan bases were the same. You got guys walking around in cowboy boots. You go to the parking lot, there's diesel trucks parked everywhere. You name it, you see it. And that was part of that ag culture, as you said earlier, and we take pride in it. But no, Iowa State is a fun game, and I played against them. I went to a game up in Ames before as a fan. They treated us well. After the game, when we won, they high-fived and say, hey, good luck next week against whoever we played, and vice versa. Me personally, I've never had a negative experience with Iowa State, so I enjoy when we play them.
My only negative experience with Iowa State was, I think it was 2 years ago at the Big 12 tournament, basketball tournament in Kansas City. And their fans just bought all the tickets. I was like, you guys just got too many fans and you're driving my ticket prices up. So that was my biggest negative, is they made me spend more for basketball tickets than I wanted to spend. But if that's the worst thing, is that their fans travel well, then they got something going. But yeah, I mean, it's I feel like, I don't know if this is a national talking point, but especially among K-State fans, it seems like Iowa State, we've had their number the last, 5, 7, 10 years, and K-State usually does a pretty nice job. And Matt Campbell and Iowa State always seems to get some national recognition early on in the season, and they always end up at 7 or 8 wins. And I don't know. They're just kind of fun because they don't really scare me, but it's a good game. It's a good rivalry. I never have been to Ames, so actually that's a nice easy drive. I probably need to add that to my list here in the next couple of years, as long as the season's next season opens up a little more normal from COVID. But I mean, overall, it's a great program. I would not hesitate at all. If I had a kid that was getting recruited by him, I would not hesitate at all to send him up to Matt Campbell. From what I hear, he's a great coach, and a good college town and a good clean program. So when we look at that, I mean, I don't think it's too easy to talk negative about him. When we talk about a bunch of 8-win seasons, it's kind of fun to poke fun at them. But from a player standpoint, I mean, obviously their guy that they like is Brock Purdy. Which you mentioned a couple minutes ago, we lost Skyler. Imagine where we'd be if we just had Skyler. Like that was, I was thinking that the other day. I was like, man, if we just had Skyler, we didn't play well against West Virginia, and we maybe would have been in that ball game. But we might be a 1 or a 0 loss team if we still had Skyler, which is kind of makes me a little sad. But Brock Purdy overall, quarterback, this Iowa State team. Just kind of, what's your thoughts overall? You mentioned a little bit of the the defensive side earlier in the segment, but just what's Kansas State need to do to make sure they're prepared to go in there and play well?
Yeah, man. Like they and Iowa State always has good running backs. I don't know how they get good running backs, but they always do. It's like year in and year out, they find these dudes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden those guys are playing on Sundays. But no, Brock Purdy, he's been one of the higher recruits for Iowa State in the last couple of years, and he reminds me a lot of the quarterback from Texas, Ellinger. He's not as big as Ellinger, but he throws the ball well and he can run also, and he competes. That's one thing about Purdy that stands out for me with him. He competes. He's not one of those guys that's going to give up on the play. He's going to try to get every yard possible, which sometimes gets him in trouble, where he can fumble or he'll throw interception. But the guy competes, and, that's what you want as an offensive guy. But he didn't scare me because we had good luck against him the last couple of years. But I think if he got hot and up there in Ames, they get a little rowdy, and although the crowd may not be packed, but still that momentum makes a big difference. But I think that our D-line will do a good job of containing him, as they did last week with Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State. But Purdy's a good quarterback. He's a good leader, and he's kind of in the face of that program right now. But he doesn't scare me. You know
who does scare me?
Who was that?
Breece Hall, their running back. the Wichita native, man. He's good. Yeah. Man, he's good. So he he does scare me. So yeah, I'm with you. Brock Purdy, I think he's a little overhyped. I know. I think we were going after his little brother last year, and he ended up going somewhere else. So that leaves a little sour taste in my mouth for the whole Purdy family. Yeah, Brock Purdy. I don't want to, if I want to compare him, like a Skyler, someone who's a little bit more of a game manager. He just doesn't scare me. But this Breece Hall kid, man, I mean, he's a freak. He's a stud. He's young. He's only a sophomore. So I think it should be like you mentioned earlier. If Kansas State's going to come out and run the ball and try to pound it, I mean, I think that's what Iowa State's going to do, and really make this Kansas State defense stop the run, which Kansas State has done that pretty well. So they've shown that their defensive front is very good. So I think this game will come down to Iowa State's O-line and running game versus Kansas State's D-line and linebackers core stopping that run game. Because, I mean, it's good on good. It's strong point versus strong point. And whoever's both those units are great for both these teams and probably the strong point of their team. And it'll be curious to see whose is better. So I think that's really where the game's going to come down to. If Iowa State struggles to run the ball, then, and put the ball in Brock Purdy's hands, which, he's fine. But I think that they want to run the ball, and that run game for them has been so electric and so productive that this Kansas State defense has got their work cut out for them.
Right. No, I agree. That's what makes it fun. But like you said, that Breece Hall, man, he's special. I'm happy for the kid because he is a Kansas native, from Wichita area. And I know not just us and other schools, Oklahoma State, were looking at him, but it's one of the things like, man, kudos to Iowa State to being one of the first schools that offered him. So, and he's one of, a lot of, and nowadays you don't get a whole lot of kids that stay with their commits, but when he committed to them, he stayed true to him. And good for him and good for them. I'm just hoping he has an off week next week when we go play him up in Ames. So,
shoot. Yep. You and me both. But yeah, looking at his stats, I mean, he's already over 1,000 yards, got 13 touchdowns, 15 receptions, 88 yards receiving, one receiving touchdown. So, I mean, yeah, he's an all-around back. He's an all-around back, which well, you just mentioned, guys sticking to their commitments. I'm trying to see here. K-State had another transfer this morning, which has been, I don't know how many that is now. And I'd love to follow some other schools. I don't, the Twitter. I don't follow other beat reporters from other schools. All I follow is K-State guys for the most part. So I don't see if these other schools are having, younger guys that aren't playing transfer. But yeah, three-star Tyrone Lewis transferred from Kansas State, defensive back. And is this? It seems like it's more than normal. I don't. And I would, if we put pen to paper, I can almost guarantee that there's been more transfers this year than there has been of late, whether that's Bill Snyder era, whether that's Coach Kleiman's first year. It just seems like the transfer portal has been hot. One, is that because, this season doesn't count? Even if they've played, they can still transfer, and there's really no eligibility issues. It's not like they lost a season or anything. Is that one, is it just a COVID thing, or is it two, that's just the way the world is now? These kids are so connected, and they're like, hey, I'm not playing. Well, next thing you know, their buddy from whoever, another program, talks to their coach and says, well, shoot, he's better than our guy. Get him over here. Is the world just so connected now that these guys are just, jumping ship and kids don't want to sit behind kids? Or what do you attribute to just the high volume of transfers? And I know we see it at Kansas State. I'm fairly certain it's happening everywhere. Just overall, what's the reason, and how do we avoid it? Because I hate it.
Yeah, I think, first of all, to answer your last question, some rules need to be put in place. I think when the transfer portal became a thing, that opened up a big can of worms that nobody expected. But with the year being the way it is with COVID and everything, that played a significant part in it also. But like you said, it's not just football, but it's just society in general with young people. Not all, but a large majority. They are so used to instant gratification, and they're not used to working and waiting and being patient to be the guy. You get some guys that buy into it and understand that, but then a lot of guys think, well, I see my buddy, and a lot of it is social media as well. They see these guys getting all this coverage, getting all this publicity, and they want that. So they're not patient enough for their time to come around to get that. They want it right now. So it's not working out where I'm at now. Let me go somewhere. Or it's not working out here. I'm going to go somewhere. Just like, and it's so much like, and you asked about other schools. I know Deion Sanders is the new head coach at Jackson State, which is a historical black college. And he's had, and I think a lot of that to do with the fact that he's Deion Sanders, which I would be back. I will play for him too as well. But he had a kid from Florida State that just left, decommitted from Florida State or transferred from Florida State to Jackson State. And that's happening with some of the bigger Power 5 schools are losing some of their players to Jackson State. And I'm pretty sure it'll accumulate as well to some of the other historical black colleges as well. But I think it's the fact that they get to play right away. And if they don't get to play right away, they got to go somewhere else. And you might have a bad year, and all of a sudden, okay, I had a bad year. I need to change. And that's one thing I'm a believer in. I know you're a believer in. Football, the game of football, the sport of football, it teaches you life lessons. And you're going to have some ups and downs. And when you persevere through that, you're going to become a better man, a better father, a better husband, a better citizen, a better worker, a better CEO, whatever it may be. But that's just going through adversity. And a lot of times, kids haven't been told no, or there's so many options available for them to take the easy way out. That's just facts.
Yeah, transfer portal made it easier, made it almost too easy, which, going down to the high school ranks, Jaden Williams, the young player that was also, classmates with Jake Rubley, who's the next quarterback. Skylar, Will, Jake Rubley. Jake and Will would probably have a pretty good quarterback battle. We just lost Jaden Williams. Kansas State just lost his commitment. Do you think Kansas State holds on to Jake Rubley throughout this process, or does he see the writing on the wall of Will Howard getting all this playing time, and Will's just going to have such a big lead on him next year when Jake Rubley, comes to town, that he's, how do you see Jake Rubley and that playing out between now and when he shows up on campus, and does he show up on campus?
Well, I say, yeah, I think he will show up on campus. And I think he has such a good relationship with Coach Kleiman and Coach Klein, for that matter, and that makes a big difference. I have never met the young man personally. I read a bunch of articles about him, and I saw where he made a comment on Twitter that he is still committed to K-State. And from my understanding, I don't know because I didn't talk firsthand, but just secondhand information, the young man that decided to decommit, I guess there was some other underlying issues that people weren't aware of in the public that's just not football related, but just as individual. I'm not saying that's the case. I don't know. So I'm not for sure, but that's just hearsay from other outlets as well. But I'm thinking that Rubley is committed from jump, and I think he will stick it out. And I think, and not knocking Will Howard, but I think it'd be good for him. Yep. He's going to have to compete, and he understands this is what's going on. And you'll find out, in K-State knows it, you play in the Big 12, and you play in the offense that K-State run, you need 2 quality quarterbacks. And right now you might not be starting. Blink of an eye, boom, you're in there. So it's one of those things where you got to look at that, and you know very well how that goes.
Shoot, I was an 18-year-old freshman and 4th on the depth chart, and everyone got hurt. I was first real fast as a 190-pound tight end. It was horrible. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Well, personally, I'm with you. I have never talked to Jake Rubley. I have no idea what's going through his head. I'm cautiously optimistic. I probably think he decommits. I just put myself in his shoes or put myself in his dad's shoes and be like, hey, if that's my son, I might be trying to talk to some other people. And so how about this? If Rubley shows up on campus, we're going to lunch on me. If Rubley doesn't show up on campus, you gotta take me to lunch. Does that work?
Deal.
So you've got the edge right now because as of now he's committed. So I hope he comes and because and honestly what probably happens, and this is what I also hate, but it's if you're Jake Rubley, it's not like you're not committing to 5 years. You're only committing to 1 year now with the transfer portal. So he might be like, hey, I'm going to show up and I'm going to battle this kid next year, battle Will Howard. And if I lose, then I'll just transfer. So, which is kind of what the transfer portal has created, which is not good. They need to figure something else out because that's not fair and that's not right for the coaches and the other players. But any other thoughts on anything? We can wrap up and enjoy a nice off weekend as we get ready for Iowa State.
No, that's about it. Hey, you have a good time pheasant hunting. Be safe out there. Enjoy the weather. And we will talk to you in a couple of weeks after we get down with the Iowa State game.
Sounds good, Monty. Appreciate it. No high school ball and no college ball, so you'll be nice and bored, paint the house, do some yard work, something like that. So appreciate you. Have a good weekend, buddy.
All right, take care.
Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.